we played an old game, a little over 10 years old, called The Pillars of the Earth.
Yes, I've had this one for a while, and it's one of those things that every time I bring it, it's either not enough people or too many. It's just never fit. We finally got the chance to play it.
I mean, I've as I said before, I know I just looked at the box of this game and just fell asleep. it looks so much like a dry Euro game.
It's also funny because only recently did I realize, like, oh, this is based off like a book that's a series too.
Based off a book series that we have never read, which also was a mini series on TV. I mean, not getting into how the game was yet. If the story of the books is very similar to the story of this game, they must be very dull. But I don't know.
This is the Catan movie.
yeah, it could be. So the story of the game is a cathedral's being built, and you're hiring workers.
You're all the builders building it, and you're trying to prove you're the best one.
Yeah, and basically you're gathering resources. It's a worker placement.
With victory points.
With victory points, yeah. I mean, it's very straightforward, similar to other Euro kind of worker placement games. You have cubes, they're resources. You can spend them, you get money, and etc. So, after all this time, what do you think?
I mean,
was it worth the wait?
I actually did enjoy it a lot and I will say I also came in dead last.
Oh yeah.
And the game is really, I do think there isn't as nearly many options. Like, I think that you said this is the first worker placement game where you weren't like, oh, I want everything. You're like, oh, I just those two.
It was definitely not like Agricola where you're constantly like, oh, if only I had another thing. This one was like, oh, I know what I want.
I think resource cubes, there's a bit more, like you'd think that if I only had one more and stuff, but it wasn't nearly as punishing it felt at first. But it's definitely, there's an interesting take of managing your resources, I think, is the bigger thing in this game. Like, you have two different kinds of work. You have the pawns, which would be the worker placement part. Mm-hmm. And then you actually have workers, which are more like a resource to buy resources. Like, I need to send 6 workers to get this many wood, or 3 workers to get that much sand kind of deal. Mm-hmm. And that's really, I think, where we were more thinking like, oh, if I had a few more workers, I'd be able to get that stone and that sand.
Yeah, no, that element was definitely interesting. Even though I'm like kind of making fun of this game, I did enjoy it. It did have a good amount of, there were things to think about in it. I like that they had the two, like you said, the two different sort of currencies. Mm-hmm. Technically 3, because you also actually had, goals, money,
right.
Dollars, you might say.
And one thing I did love about that, the money wasn't that they gave you money. There's a money tracker, which is almost so nice just to be like, I don't need to hand out tokens. You can just slide that along.
It's also very interesting, the way that the order of placement worked was the pieces are randomly drawn out of a bag, and if your piece comes up first, you have to pay a pretty high amount of money to actually place your piece if you want to, or you can wait, save your money, but you might not get the thing that you wanted.
Right.
So that also added an interesting choice aspect.
Yeah. Like, I do think mechanically I joined the game a lot and had a lot of fun. Definitely probably would be willing to play again. Once again, I think my biggest gripe with the game, and probably with a lot of Euro games, is just aesthetically, as you said, you fell asleep looking at it.
Yeah, no, very, very dry. Ultimately, I liked this game. I would play it again, but it's just not really my kind of thing.
Yeah, I think maybe that's just because we're not as many Euro games. We need everything bright and flashy.
I mean, a little bit. But, I can appreciate, but like I said, This is definitely... You could tell, I think, that this game came out in 2006, which for some people, they will love that. For me, it felt dated, and I felt like, while I like this, I mean, even Agricola, which also came out a fairly long time ago, I think is definitely more interesting and exciting than this game. But it has things to complement.
By the way, we should say there is apparently an expansion for it. I don't know if we get it, because currently both are out of print, so it's very hard to get.
Yeah, this game is not in print right now.
Make changes. But overall, I do think we're, like I said, we're not big Euro games, so I still had a lot of fun with it. So if you enjoy Euro games, see if you can find a way to, like, if there's a board game library somewhere near you or at a convention, see if you can get a chance to play it. Because it was, I think, a very fun worker placement that was like, it's almost, it takes back, as you said, like Agricola with too much, which lets you focus more on trying to just get those little bit of extra in your engine. working.
This is one I can understand people like having a nostalgia for it from that era. I think the expansion. This is a game that I definitely would want an expansion for, because that would probably be one of my main criticisms. I felt like there wasn't a lot there.
Well, my big thing I wasn't sure about, and maybe this comes from being like enjoying my Ameritrash, is that you pretty much 4 workers you can hire, like special workers. I forget what they call them. They're cards that let you trade resources for points or money, whatever, each round. But it will always be the same 4 workers per round. So part of me was like, I remember I said this in the game, does that make it very solvable?
It's something similar, like games like Olympus for me. I kind of felt the same way, where a lot of other Euro games where I felt like...
There's a meta shit, but yeah, like Olympus,
there's very little randomness.
You want to be the first person to get either the deer one, the wheat one, or the...
You basically know what you want to do if you've played it a few times. There's not as much variability in there, which is why the expansion maybe changes that. So if as you like those kinds of games, look for Pillars of the Earth. If you've read the book, let us know.
Or or
seen I think it was like, maybe was it British? It was like a BBC show or something.
Come on, do you see the cover of that game? How's it not?
Apparently this is like a best-selling series. So anyway.
If you enjoyed this video, it was just a snippet of our full-length podcast, which you can find on our YouTube channel every week. So please go ahead, like, and subscribe for more board game-related content coming at you in the future.
And don't forget to check out RollForCrit.com, where we actually sell a lot of the games we talked about, as well as post news and all our other videos. Until then, I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes, and this is Roll for Crit.